Imagine walking into, like, a rural jungle farm out in Malaysia.
Right, you probably expect, the usual stuff.
Exactly. I mean, you expect to see machetes, plenty of mud, some weathered barns, and just these endless rows of a single crop stretching out to the horizon.
Yeah, totally. A very traditional, kind of old school agricultural setup,
Right, but instead you walk onto this property and you hear this low, constant hum of an AI edge data center.
which is just wild to even picture.
It is. And then you look over, and rather than a field hand, you see a retired master welder, fabricating a custom part for a high-tech electric excavator.
Yeah, that's definitely not your grandfather's farm.
No, not at all. And that's exactly why we're here today. We're looking at a massive stack of sources on an agri-tech initiative called Ecoladang Micro Farms.
And what they're doing out there completely shatters, just every traditional assumption we have about agriculture.
It really does. So, for you, the listener, the mission of this deep dive today is to take you through all this documentation to understand how Ecoladang is fundamentally redefining what it means to work in agriculture.
It's a total paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Ecoladang isn't just modernizing a farm. They are architecting an entirely new economic engine from the ground up.
Okay, let's unpack this, because when I first read through their operational models, the best analogy I could come up with is that, well, Ecoladang isn't actually operating a traditional farm.
Right.
They are essentially running a highly diversified, heavy industry tech startup that just happens to grow food.
That's actually a brilliant way to put it, yeah.
I mean, you've got edge computing, clean energy generation, and this intense biological management all sitting right there in the absolute middle of rural communities.
And that tech startup approach, it's driven by a very specific goal. They're trying to cultivate what they call a sovereign new economy.
A sovereign new economy.
Exactly. Their foundational thesis is that rural agriculture in Southeast Asia has basically been trapped for generations in this seasonal, low-wage monoculture loop.
Right, where you just grow one thing, sell it cheap, and hope for the best.
Yeah, you're constantly at the mercy of global commodity prices, extreme weather, you name it. But Ecoladang is proving that profitability and purpose must grow together. They're turning underutilized land into these AI-harmonized economic powerhouses.
But, I mean, to run a highly diversified startup, you need a workforce that looks absolutely nothing like traditional farm labor.
Oh, not even close.
I was absolutely blown away by their recruitment materials in the sources. I mean, you can't just hand a hoe to someone and say, hey, go manage the AI data center.
No, you definitely cannot do that.
The specific, highly skilled jobs they're creating out in these rural provinces are just wild. We're talking bioscientists, we're talking agronomists.
Yeah, and we're talking about rural farms with actual clean rooms on site.
Right. And, it sounds counterintuitive at first until you look at the mechanics of what they are actually producing.
Because Ecoladang operates these really complex, multi-revenue closed-loop ecosystems. Let's take their organic protein production as an example.
Okay, yeah.
They are using black soldier fly larvae, or BSFL, to consume agricultural waste and convert it into high-quality protein feed.
But wait, I have to ask, why do you need a bioscientist for that? Aren't flies just, flies? I mean, they eat garbage.
In the wild, sure, they just eat whatever. But when you are trying to maximize biological yield at a massive industrial scale, it becomes an incredibly intense science.
Like, how intense are we talking?
Well, you need agronomists to manage the precise temperature, the humidity, the exact nutrient mix of the biomass that's being fed to the larvae.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if the biological parameters are off by just a few degrees, your larvae yield completely plummets, and suddenly your financial projections just fall apart.
So it's not just throwing waste in a bin and letting the bugs at it.
Not at all. And the same exact logic goes for their gourmet mushroom cultivation, like the 7 Stars mushrooms they grow over in Seminyu.
Ah, right, the mushrooms. And that's where the clean rooms come in, right?
Yeah.
Because I was reading that in the stack and thinking, why on earth do you need a semiconductor-level clean room to grow a mushroom in the jungle?
Because a single stray microscopic mold spore, just floating naturally in the human jungle air, if it infiltrates a cultivation node, it can wipe out an entire high-value gourmet crop overnight.
Man, that is high stakes.
Extremely high stakes. So the bioscientists are there to manage precise spore inoculation in a perfectly sterile environment, long before the mushrooms are even moved out to the growing structures.
That is wild. So you have this intense biological science happening, But then, and this is what really threw me, I looked at the corporate roles they were hiring for, and I had to read the document twice.
Yeah, the corporate side is fascinating.
They want enterprise project managers to deploy what they call agro shacks. And even stranger, they're hiring new economy and tax innovators.
Right, tax innovators.
I mean, why does a farm need a tax innovator?
Well, it raises a really critical question, right? How does a rural farmer actually survive a modern digital audit?
Mm-hmm.
Because Malaysia has recently rolled out this very strict National Tax Board digital system. It's called LHDN e-invoicing.
Okay, and that's a big deal for small farms.
It's massive. Think about it. If you are a small farmer managing a multi-crop system and you're trying to track your spore purchases, your larvae yields, your daily equipment depreciation.
Go on paper.
Exactly. A government digital audit will absolutely crush you under the weight of that paperwork.
So the tax innovators are brought in to, like, design friction-free accounting models to shield the farmers from all that bureaucracy.
Precisely. They figure out how to integrate the farm's chaotic daily activities directly into the government's tax software.
Wow, okay. But, building out clean rooms and accounting software is one thing. Building the physical infrastructure out in the provinces is a whole different beast. I was really fascinated by their heavy industry recruitment drive.
Oh yeah, the retirees.
Right. They are actively seeking out retired master machinists, mechanical engineers, tool makers, and fabricators.
Because every single Ecoladang agro park features a dedicated heavy industry workshop.
Which makes sense, right? Keeping an electric excavator or, an automated hauling system alive in a humid, muddy agricultural environment requires some serious intervention.
Oh, absolutely. Things break all the time. And you can't just call customer support and wait 3 weeks for a technician to drive all the way out from Kuala Lumpur.
Right. You need someone on site who can literally fabricate a custom spare part out of raw metal on a random Tuesday afternoon.
Exactly. And the fact that they specifically want seasoned retirees for this, it builds in this amazing mentoring aspect to the whole operation.
I loved that part. You have a 60-year-old master welder passing decades of hard-earned wisdom down to local rural youth.
That's a beautiful dynamic.
But, okay, this actually brings up something I really need to push back on based on the sources.
Sure, go ahead.
If you are flooding a rural area with, corporate tax wizards, bioscientists, and retired mechanical engineers from the city, doesn't the traditional local farmer just become a low-level employee on their own land? I mean, are they being pushed out?
That is the most common trap of agricultural modernization, without a doubt. The tech takes over, the outside experts fly in, and the locals are entirely marginalized.
Right, it happens all the time.
But the Ecoladang documentation is incredibly strict about the hierarchy here. The local farmers, who they formally refer to as managed operational farmers, or MOPS, they are the absolute anchor of the system.
But how does that actually work in practice, though? Like, if I'm a local farmer who just knows traditional agriculture, how am I suddenly in charge of a bioscientist?
So think of it as an orbital system.
Hmm.
The MOPS, the local farmers, they are the center of gravity. The specialists, the scientists, the retirees, they are brought in to build a resilient, multidisciplinary ecosystem around the local farmer.
Around them, okay.
Right. The goal is relentless knowledge transfer. The experts are there specifically to ensure the physical and biological infrastructure never fails, which allows the local farmer to own and operate a highly profitable microfarm without needing a PhD in entomology or an engineering degree.
Okay, I get it. But even with a ring of experts around you, I mean, the logistics of this give me a headache just thinking about them.
It is a lot of moving parts.
It's an insane amount. You have heavy machinery, complex insect life cycles, spore clean rooms, LHDN tax compliance, multi-crop harvesting, all happening simultaneously. That operation could so easily become an administrative nightmare.
Oh, the daily friction of those moving parts would paralyze a normal business.
Wow.
Completely paralyze it.
Exactly. So how do they not collapse under their own weight?
That is where the technological brain of the entire operation comes into play. They call it the Sovereign Agro-Intelligence Node.
Or N.
Right.
The sources describe this as an on-site, hardened mini AI data center. But hold on, running a data center usually requires massive cooling, pristine conditions, and insane amounts of power. How are they keeping sensitive AI servers alive in the middle of a hot, humid zone filled with DOOT and biomass?
Well, they aren't using traditional fragile cloud servers like you'd see in a normal data center. SA is a hardened edge data center.
Edge data center, meaning what exactly for the listener?
For context, an edge data center processes data locally, right, where it's actually generated, rather than sending it hundreds of miles away to a massive server farm in a city.
Gotcha.
And it's built into these ruggedized, climate-controlled nodes that are designed specifically for hostile physical environments. So Seisin sits right there on the farm, managing the daily operations by learning and optimizing through real-time, AI-driven standard operating procedures.
And it handles all the tedious logging, right? I have to say, whenever I hear the word blockchain in relation to agriculture, my eyes immediately glaze over.
Yeah, usually sounds like a tech buzzword just desperately looking for a problem to solve.
Exactly. But the sources highlight that Sane uses the Stellar blockchain to handle the administrative grind, and it actually really makes sense here.
How so? Walk us through it.
Well, normally, tracking a mushroom from a single spore in a clean room to a growing shack to a harvest basket, and then finally to a buyer that requires like 3 different databases.
At least.
Right. And for a tax audit, that is an absolute nightmare to track down. But by logging every single step on the Stellar blockchain using on-site sensors, Sane creates a single, immutable digital receipt that the LHDN tax board can verify instantly. No CPA required.
It's completely transparent.
Yeah, so here's where it gets really interesting. Think of Sane not just as a digital shield protecting the farmer, but as an automated API for the physical world. Just like software uses an API to instantly talk to a bank without human intervention, Sane takes the physical yield of a mushroom crop and instantly translates it into tax compliance data.
That's a great analogy. And what's fascinating here is how Ecoladang frames this whole AI-driven shift.
Yeah.
Because in so many industries right now, AI is viewed as this adversarial threat,
Yeah.
right? A mechanism to just eliminate human jobs and cut costs.
Definitely.
But Ecoladang treats it as an unprecedented canvas of opportunity. They explicitly state in the materials that they don't use AI to replace humans. They use it to eliminate friction.
So by absorbing all the high-risk administrative liabilities, the audits, the inventory tracking, the SOP logging, human minds are just completely freed up.
Precisely. And this is where you see genuine human-AI harmony in action. By taking that immense administrative weight off the farmer's shoulders, the local teams can focus on what human beings actually do best, which is innovating.
Right. They can brainstorm new crop integrations, optimize physical efficiencies, and really push the boundaries of what their microfarm can achieve.
All while Ecoladang continuously transfers operational expertise to them through interactive training.
Which logically brings us to the broader impact of all this. Because if the AI is handling the back end, the retired engineers are fixing the excavators, and the bioscientists are managing the clean rooms, what is the direct, tangible benefit to the wider rural community that's actually hosting these agroparks?
That's the million-dollar question. And to understand the economic lifeline this provides, we really have to look at a massive issue currently facing Southeast Asia, which is the palm tree replanting crisis.
Yeah, the sources mention this is estimated to be a $3 billion crisis.
It is staggering.
But for you listening who might not know, why is replanting such a massive financial disaster for these farmers?
Well, palm oil trees have a very strict biological life cycle. Eventually, they just grow too tall to harvest efficiently, and their oil yields naturally drop.
Makes sense.
So when that happens, the farmer has to cut them down and replant. But the new trees take time to mature. This creates a devastating 3 to 7 year income dead zone.
7 years without income.
Exactly. For a small rural family managing a, say, 5 to 40 hectare farm, going up to 7 years without their primary source of income is catastrophic. It completely forces them into predatory debt just to survive.
And for context here, we are mostly talking about the Bumiputra, the indigenous and Malay populations who form the absolute backbone of this rural agricultural economy, an income gap that long literally destroys generational wealth.
It wipes it out.
So how does Ecoladang actually solve what is essentially a biological waiting game? You can't make trees grow faster.
No, you can't. But what they do is place their highly profitable agro shacks directly onto these family-run farms right while the palm trees are maturing in the background.
Oh, I see.
Because these microfarms produce high-value, fast-yielding outputs like the gourmet mushrooms we talked about that grow in weeks, or the organic insect proteins. It immediately erases that income dead zone.
They are completely bridging the gap. But the community uplift doesn't just stop at direct farming income, right? Because the sources know that every single agropark also doubles as a certified technical and vocational education and training hub, a TVET academy.
Yeah, and they aren't just teaching people how to plant seeds better.
Not at all. They're providing intensive, certified apprenticeship programs in extremely future-proof fields. We are talking about electric vehicle mechanics to maintain the hauling fleets, advanced electrical engineering, and edge data center operations to manage the CNAM network.
which is incredible for rural areas.
I mean, if you're listening to this and you work in traditional corporate IT or logistics, Ecoladang's model is a massive wake-up call. They are proving that you don't need a Silicon Valley zip code to run an edge computing network.
No, you don't.
They are training rural youth to run the infrastructure of the future right in their own hometowns, completely reversing the rural brain drain that usually sends all the young talent flocking to cities like Kuala Lumpur.
And beyond just the jobs, they embed deep community safeguards into the physical design of the agroparks themselves.
Like what?
They build communal learning spaces, they provide medical support, and crucially, they provide reliable off-grid internet connectivity, which is powered directly by this Ecoladang data center. In many rural areas, simple, reliable digital connectivity is the single biggest barrier to economic participation.
Right, you can't join the digital economy if you can't get online.
Exactly.
I want to circle back to a specific term they use heavily in their strategy docs, which is the prosperity mandate.
Oh, yes.
How does this model actually protect these families from the wildly unpredictable nature of agricultural markets? Because historically, I mean, farming is one bad drought or one crop disease away from bankruptcy.
Well, the prosperity mandate is fundamentally about building resilience through really aggressive diversification. The traditional model makes a farmer completely reliant on a single commodity, like palm oil. If the price of palm oil crashes globally, or a disease wipes out a crop, the family faces total ruin. Ecoladang shields them from that vulnerability by generating multi-stream revenue off the exact same piece of land.
So they're selling mushrooms and insect protein. What else are they doing?
They are diversifying into clean energy, carbon credits, and this is perhaps the most innovative part of the entire operation, sovereign data compute services.
Wait, sovereign data compute services. Are you seriously saying a mushroom farm in the jungle is selling server processing power?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
That is insane.
Because they have the hardened edge data center right on site, and they are generating their own clean, off-grid power to run it. They actually have excess computing power that they can sell globally.
Oh, wow.
So a micro farm in rural Malaysia could literally be processing AI training data for a tech company over in Europe, creating a completely new, uncorrelated revenue stream that has absolutely nothing to do with the price of crops or the weather.
That is mind-blowing. It's an ecosystem that exports both high-value protein and cloud computing power.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
But, okay, let's be real. Building decentralized, AI-powered agricultural hubs with built-in schools, clean rooms, and heavy industry workshops that requires a staggering amount of capital. A local farmer cannot just walk into a rural bank and secure a loan for an AI data center.
No, definitely not.
So who is actually footing the bill to build all this physical infrastructure?
And that brings us to their macro financial strategy, which is the Goldman Partnership. Goldman being the colloquial term for the Malaysian government.
Right. The documentation makes it really clear that Ecoladang's main reason for existing at this massive scale is to work hand in hand with the government to secure development funding and grants.
Yes, but they emphasize they aren't just holding their hands out for a generic green energy subsidy. They are offering the government a literal 10x return on public investment.
Which is a bold claim.
It is, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, governments globally constantly struggle to operationalize their high-level policies.
What do you mean?
Well, a government can set a nice target for sustainability, rural uplift, and technology adoption, but actually deploying that on the ground in a really fragmented agricultural sector is incredibly difficult. Ecoladang basically acts as the execution layer for these national goals.
Okay, let's look at a concrete example from the sources to ground this. The National Biomass Action Plan for 2023 to 2030.
Perfect example.
The palm oil industry generates a massive amount of agricultural waste, specifically these empty fruit bunches. And right now, this waste is a costly, hazardous environmental liability. It's often just left to rot, releasing huge amounts of methane, or it's just burned in the open air, causing terrible regional air pollution.
So how does Ecoladang execute the government's action plan for this? They take that biomass liability and use advanced processes like gasification and waste pyrolysis.
Wait, pyrolysis? I'm not super familiar with that. So they aren't just throwing the waste in a furnace and burning it to boil water.
No, because burning it releases emissions. Pyrolysis involves taking that organic biomass and heating it to extreme temperatures in an oxygen-deprived chamber.
Oxygen deprived, okay.
Right. Because there is no oxygen, the material physically cannot catch fire. Instead, it chemically decomposes. And this process produces a synthetic gas, or syngas, which they then use to run generators and create clean, off-grid electricity to power the farm and the AI data center.
Oh, that's amazing. And the byproduct of that process is premium biochar, wood vinegar, and high-value activated carbon, which they can then package and sell as well.
Exactly. It is a perfect zero-waste closed loop. You take a heavily polluting waste product, you use it to power your own high-tech servers, and you sell the leftovers to enrich local soil.
And when you zoom out, you see how this directly supports Malaysia's most critical strategic objectives. By producing high-quality organic proteins and multi-crop yields in these climate-controlled environments, they are significantly enhancing long-term national food security. And by generating off-grid power from agricultural waste, they are contributing to true energy sovereignty. Plus, by training a high-tech workforce through the TVET academies, they are securing the nation's place in the global technology race.
It's just a masterclass in systems thinking. The ultimate takeaway from their mission and goals is that they refuse to treat agriculture, education, energy, and technology as separate, siloed sectors. They are treating them all as a single, fully integrated biological and digital ecosystem.
It's just brilliant. Ecoladang is like a public-private puzzle piece that's perfectly shaped to fill the gaps in government policy. They take all these isolated national problems, the rural brain drain, the $3 billion replanting crisis, the methane liabilities, the lack of rural tech, and they solve them simultaneously by turning them into permanent local wealth.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
So what does this all mean for you listening as we take a step back and look at the whole picture? We've journeyed from black soldier flies and spore clean rooms to immutable tax blockchains, all the way to pyrolysis and sovereign data compute.
It's been a ride.
To synthesize this, Ecoladang isn't merely building high-tech farms. By fusing cutting-edge computing with decentralized circular loop agriculture, they are architecting a self-sustaining, community-driven social movement.
And they are proving at scale that you don't have to choose between environmental responsibility and high-yield economics. Their fearless embrace of the new economy, where humans and AI work in absolute harmony to eliminate friction and unlock innovation, is a blueprint that extends far, far beyond just agriculture.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to really mull over. We started this deep dive by picturing a heavy industry tech startup disguised as a farm in the rural jungle.
Right.
But think about the underlying mechanics we just explored. If a decentralized microfarm can use an AI blockchain to automate its taxes, run its own edge data center, generate off-grid power from its own waste, and train a new generation of EV mechanics, what other traditional overlooked industries are perfectly primed for an AI-harmonized revolution?
It's a question that challenges our most basic assumptions about what the future of physical work actually looks like.
It really does. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep questioning the way things have always been done, and we'll catch you next time as we continue to unpack the ideas shaping our world.